sometimes it's wonderful to just, when you don't have a lot of time, but you want something so meaningful, to kind of just direct your attention for that day or those few hours or before you go to bed at night.
Welcome to Classical Etc. You're in the studio with Memoria Press.
We are so well-rounded. Who would hate us? Okay. Who would hate us? Many. You feel like your first day of school?
Many.
Like, doesn't everybody like me?
I'm going to have someone to sit with at lunch.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Classical Etc. I'm Jessica Aboud, and I am here with Paul Schaefer, Tanya Charlton, and returning guest, Mrs. Lee Lowe. Lee,
Hello.
It's an honor to have you here and a privilege. I know you've been on the podcast recently, but I didn't get to be on that one. And so I'm so excited that you made time for us today. Thank you.
Well, this is always a treat for me. So thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yes. So if people don't know or recognize you, you contribute mightily to the Memoria Press efforts. You work on curriculum development. You write for our magazine and for other things. You speak at our conferences. You have a lot of responsibilities for Memoria College. What did I leave out?
Raising 5 children.
Which is a heavy load.
Trying to get my own 5 children through Highlands Latin School and the Memoria Press curriculum, which is first and foremost on my responsibility list.
That's right. That's right. That's wonderful. We're so glad you're here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Well, as you know, Lee, we go around and we always share what we're reading. I can save you for last if you need a second to think about it.
No, I actually just finished an incredible book, which I know has been passing around the office a little bit, which is Galahad and the Grail, which is incredible and high praise from me. So,
by Malcolm Guite.
Yes.
Okay. Not out yet.
Not out yet. Yes, but I know that it's been going around.
It has. March 23rd, I think, is the release date. So you would recommend on March 23rd, everybody get it.
It is incredible.
I haven't read it yet. I just got my copy.
You can pre-order it. I've already ordered.
Is it fiction?
I have already ordered a copy for my house and my children.
It's the Arthurian legend told in verse.
Oh, beautiful.
And he's going to do 3, I think. And this is the first one. Okay. Is that right? 3?
I'm not sure. For some reason, I was thinking it was 4, but I think you're right. I think it's 3. And
it's kind of like Le Morte d'Arthur by Tennyson.
I mean, I haven't dug into it, but I was looking at like the verses because Martin and I were talking about it, and it's very intelligible, right? Mm-hmm. So somebody who feels
intimidated by
poetry.
Verse, yes,
it's incredible. And in fact, Martin and I were speaking about this. You almost can't not read it aloud. It is so compelling that you find yourself mouthing it or whispering it. It's incredible.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. How about you, Tanya?
I'm about 100 pages from finishing Sense and Sensibility. And so I read it to see, because I've, recently heard people say that it was their favorite Jane Austen. But honestly, so far, it to me, I still have to put Pride and Prejudice at the top. But we'll see. Maybe I'll change my mind in 100 pages. And then I need to read that With God in Russia book that we're doing for, and I need to read Galahad and the Grail, and I need to read A Tale of Two Cities for the Crescent Hill book group. So I'm just, I don't know.
That's quite a span of like historical.
Yes.
That is a lot
of breadth.
Yeah. Paul, how about you?
Well, I finished the #1 Ladies Detective Agency, and
the first book, not the whole.
Yeah, correct. But the first book, that's the title of the first book.
Right.
And Martin hasn't finished it that I'm aware of, and
when he recommended it to you, he'd only read 1 chapter.
Yes, and I need to make a big sign of that and have that hanging by my desk. So every time he mentions the book, and be like, "Wait, you've only read 1 chapter of this."
That's right.
Because I loved the main character's love for her local area. Right, she's from Botswana, and she just loves Botswana. And the descriptions are beautiful, but it is definitely not what I expected. It's very episodic. It's not like one mystery.
It does get to be less episodic as the series goes on.
Does it?
Yes, but I do think the strong part of her books is you can tell that he has such a love for Africa, and it really comes through every book.
That's the strong thing. and maybe this is the culture over there, but like the portrayal of men was fairly negative throughout. And so, I mean, maybe I should have expected that from the #1 ladies detective agency. I don't know, but it just made me go, I'm not going to continue reading that for just a beautiful portrayal of the scenery.
I love those books.
So anyway, I am not recommending that book. I'm not saying it's awful. I didn't. Now
I am recommending it.
Martin has
suggested it
recommended
last
stuff. Martin has recommended stuff, and I have started the book, and I literally have thrown the book out. So
At least you finished this.
I finished this, so that does say something.
It would be a good audiobook.
That's
to do something light.
Yeah,
because they are light.
That's how I listen to it. I didn't actually sit down and read it. I would have been mad then if I had, probably. But then this morning I started The Confederacy of Dunces.
Oh, why have I heard of that?
It came out in the 80s. It won the Pulitzer. Like the author had, I think, committed suicide, and the foreword's by Walter Percy, and says that the author's mother said, "You need to read this book, and you need to get this book published." And he was hoping he could just throw it away after a couple of paragraphs. He's like, it was that good. But in the foreword, he's like, he says something about like, imagine Aquinas gone to pot. and like, now this is me recommending in the first chapter, right?
Oh no.
I started laughing within the first chapter. It's a satire. I have no idea where it's going to go. So far, I'm enjoying it, but it's kind of off the wall.
So don't recommend it yet.
I'm not recommending it, but that is what I'm reading, and I am actually excited about it.
Oh, good. Are you actually reading it or listening?
I'm listening, and within the first chapter, I thought maybe I need to read this because I think there's so much going on already. Just I think it's every word is intentional, and you have to really be paying attention to catch it all.
Right.
Got a lot of variety here. Well, that's good. So, on to today's episode. Well, a few months ago, we published an episode where we listed Christian fiction books. And today we are turning to nonfiction. These are a list of books that personally have shaped us and steadied us and helped us grow, helped us think more deeply and pursue the Lord more faithfully. But before we begin, I think it's probably worth saying that these books aren't going to represent one single denomination or category or group of Christians. You can think of it more as just a table of fellow Christians who are sharing the books that have really moved us and helped us grow and encourage us. We're going to share things that you may love and you may not have heard of, or maybe you even disagree with. And I can imagine that we're going to have some pretty hearty discussion and maybe some words for each other. It's not exhaustive. We will surely forget something important, and that's okay. So in that spirit, and in a spirit of charity, we're going to share our top Christian nonfiction books. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can see we've got some of them spread out here. So we're going to do our best to show you the titles too as we work through it. I think my first question is going to be, which book have you come back to over and over?
That's easy for me. It's Mere Christianity.
Okay.
It's the book that I've read more than anything else and that I do keep coming back to.
Yeah. How about everybody else?
It's a book I don't actually have anymore, but I went back again and again to it, which is one called Interior Freedom by Jacques Philippe. Jacques Philippe is I don't know if he's still alive. I think he's a French priest, and he's got these really thin, short spiritual books, and all of his have been moving to me, but Interior Freedom is probably the best one.
I've never heard of him.
Yeah, he's got like In the School of the Holy Spirit, Searching for and Maintaining Peace, Called to Life. Like there's he's got a good selection, and it's fairly ecumenical. Like practically, I think everything he's referencing is scriptural, but he'll have an occasional, saint or somebody that he references. But it's, I don't know. At times in my life, it's been very freeing to kind of break out of whatever rules we put on ourselves and say, okay, in the school of the Holy Spirit, like what is the freedom we are called to? So.
Lee, how about you?
I wish I could say something original, but probably Mere Christianity as well for me. My copy is almost coming apart. Also, I love G.K. Chesterton. So I'm routinely going back to G.K. Chesterton in a variety of formats. And so I brought my books, and I guess I can just launch into that, is that I am a big fan of essays, excerpts, and edits. And so I love a book that's easily accessible. So I love a compilation, like with a great editor who has sort of already curated the good bits for me.
Yes.
And so when I say Chesterton, a lot of times it's a book by Joseph Pierce or Dale Alquist, or, it's a compilation that someone has sort of pulled great excerpts and woven them together into a beautiful theme or a beautiful chapter about something. And so that I don't have to read an entire 300, 400 page book, but I can read a couple of pages or a chapter. And so I think that for me was how these books really serve me still, but especially in those early years when my children were young, when I was exhausted, when, when I wanted to read something meaningful and deep and eternal, but I was just so tired.
Yes.
And I think it makes difficult authors more accessible.
Right.
Like I feel like when I read Common Sense 101, it made Chesterton accessible to me. But when I tried to read Orthodoxy, I was like, oh, I'm going to try again.
Common Sense 101 is so great. And there are so many, I think, like I said, Joseph Pierce, Dale Alquist are fantastic for Chesterton, but also Walter Hooper, who was Lewis's editor, is fantastic at excerpting really excellent parts of Lewis's canon. So I'm a big fan of sort of collections.
I love that. I love that you mentioned that, because I think so many, there's a book in my book box right now. I think it has a blue cover, and it's called Morning and Evening, and it's excerpts that are beautifully written from it's just like you can read a little bit in the morning, and in the evening, I forget the author, but the point is, sometimes it's wonderful to just, when you don't have a lot of time, but you want something so meaningful, to kind of just direct your attention for that day or those few hours, or before you go to bed at night.
Right.
Something that you want to think on that's beautiful and kind of calls you out of the stress of the day and into something else.
Right.
I think there are so many volumes of excerpts by wonderful believers who have written over the centuries, really, that you can go back to, that, you're right, to your point, are accessible, but also it's there. It's not an entire book, but of theirs, because sometimes that's just not reasonable to try to do.
It's overwhelming when you know, I mean, for me, and for many in that stage of life, I think.
Right. Yeah. Perfect. Well, you might have kind of already answered this. Do you have a favorite author overall that, for Christian nonfiction, you would say, if you're going to read this person?
So I was thinking about this because I think Lewis and Chesterton are both great. I love Chesterton for his wit. And I was thinking about this, and I was thinking about the books that I love that are nonfiction. And for me, there's a strong overlap between a great fiction writer and a great nonfiction writer. So all of the authors that I love are also tremendous fiction writers. And so I love, Chesterton, Lewis, O'Connor, these authors who can do beautiful fiction, but also write beautiful essays. And I think it's because they have such a handle on reality and full reality. And so they can explain it well in an essay, and then they can demonstrate it or show those truths so beautifully in fiction as well. And so my authors are typically both fiction and nonfiction writers who are the compelling Christian authors.
That's a really interesting. Yeah, they would be able to have that cross section kind of master. That's interesting. How about you, Tanya?
I don't have a favorite author. I just, like, when I read The Seven-Story Mountain by Thomas Merton, I thought I just loved it. I loved every bit of it. But then when I tried to read a couple more things by him, I didn't. They felt existential or something.
I think that happens sometimes. And sometimes people write for a particular purpose in one book, and then another book they're doing something else.
Right.
And I was going to say with with him in particular, but I think generally Christian authors, they're writing out of their own experience. And so as the author ages, or they're shifting their perspective at the same time.
That's
And so
right.
you can also like an author for a period of their writing time.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. Some of these books, oh my goodness, I could get into that. But he's a philosophy professor at Baylor, actually, and he's written a book about the life of faith and doubt. And he actually was kind of unsettled by his original book, so he republished a revision of it. And I haven't read the second one, but it is, oh my goodness, that was a season of life where I needed that. I don't come back to it as much, but there was like a decade where I would try to read it every year. And it's funny how as you change and grow, something was so meaningful to you.
Right.
And then it might be something that, one interesting question would be, what would you give to your 20-year-old self?
Oh.
Because I would give a book about faith and doubt and questions. But
you've been talking about Matthew Lee Anderson. That's what you're talking about. So what do I give to my 20-year-old self? And I've given this to many, many 20-year-olds, and I keep doing this. Is the discernment of spirits.
Ooh.
And this is Timothy Gallagher, but it's him expounding on Ignatius of Loyola's discernment of spirits. And I want to say there's like 7 principles in here of like, how do you know that what you're feeling or what you're desiring is from the Spirit, from the Holy Spirit, as opposed to from your selfishness or from the devil or whatever. And especially for young people trying to make decisions about their life and trying to do what God wants them to do, this has been very helpful. I actually gave this to a buddy, and this book came back to me. This was the book I had in seminary, and then I left seminary partially because of the book. And then I gave it to another buddy in seminary. Then he left seminary, and he just gave this back to me this past summer. And it still has a note in it where I wrote him. I said, hopefully this will be helpful, because he was trying to go through the same process, like discerning. He wasn't sure he was supposed to be there. And so it's not my book for getting people out of seminary, but it is a very helpful book for trying to
figure out
decide,
if you really need to be there.
Is this where I'm supposed to be?
Right.
So that's what 20-year-olds. That's a great one for people.
Or maybe not 20, just a younger you.
Right.
Is there a book?
I always give Mere Christianity to young people.
It's
unless
formative.
they've graduated from here where they've already got it.
Right.
Since it's in our 12th grade.
I give this is the book that I give to everyone, young people, anyone. But it's readings and meditations, readings for meditation and reflection of Lewis. And again, it's the excerpts, and it has headings, which I think is beautiful.
Sure.
So Counting the Cost, God as Man. And so, I love that. Again, it's the accessibility piece. And I think it's just very, very well collected writings of Lewis. So I keep many, many of these on my shelves, and I think I have maybe 4 or 5 copies over there even that I've intended to give away, and then I'll pick up for myself, and so they're kind of ragged.
You can't find your copy.
That's exactly right. I'll put my book down with my coffee cup, and I'll eternally be looking for my coffee cup and my book. So.
Oh, here's a new one.
Picture what Lee's doing.
I'll just do another
in my
one.
slippers. Where's my book? Where's my coffee?
I'm interested in your book about questioning and the confidence of faith. The confidence of faith.
I've written in this more than you can even imagine.
Yeah. I have found that I am drawn to, and have been for a long time, to books that aren't necessarily written by people of faith, but they're about faith. Like Karen Armstrong, she went into a nunnery when she was very, very young, and then she came right back out of it, just totally, it was a bad experience. And so then she became basically a person of no faith, but she also became a huge theologian. And I just think, her theology is so good, and her books are so well written, and she's been on PBS, doing like documentaries of places Paul went and things like that. And I just think, God is literally working in her life, because she can't, it's like she tries to turn her back on it. And then I don't know where she is theologically now in her life, but she will in this book, which is her autobiography, she would say that she was not a Christian, but everything about it is helping people be stronger Christians. And I find that Bruce Feiler, I really like him. I like his writing. He is Jewish, but he turned his back on Judaism. And he went all the way, like he literally visited all of the places. And so he basically takes you through the Torah. And I love this book. And it's just like actually wandering around with the Israelites. But he didn't do it. He didn't.
He's not preaching at you. He's just sort of it's sort of expository. But I always am interested in the author's journeys, and I don't feel like I would recommend these for somebody who's not solid in their faith. But for somebody who is, I think both of these authors are good, but you wouldn't consider them Christian authors, but they are writing Christian nonfiction.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
I can see how it would be helpful. You encounter people who have all sorts of different postures towards Christianity. And so to have already been familiar with kind of a variety of people's encounters with God or how they interpret their own life story through their experiences and encounters with Christianity is an interesting thing I could see, because we are constantly kind of bumping up against people that have all kinds of different opinions about what they think about Christianity. And so to just be familiar with some people's stories makes us compassionate.
And for me, it also just shows, how strong that innate need for God is in our lives. And I think that's what some of these authors are struggling with.
Well, and there's and really like what it comes down to is faith, right? You can know all of the theology,
right,
but not believe.
That's right.
And some of that can come out from whether it's some awful experience as a child, or with regards to faith, it could come out of just an
a
obstinacy.
bad experience in a church.
Could be, yeah. There's a whole slew of reasons, right? And but that kind of, when you read that, you kind of realize, like there's. Sometimes we probably take faith for granted in our personal life and in our circles, because that's the air we breathe. And yet there are people that know our faith but can't believe or don't choose to.
Right.
Well, and I think, I think an interesting thing about that too is just sort of exalting the journey. I mean, that it is a lifelong journey. And so, just to, I think that's what's so compelling about, my favorite authors here, their fiction work is about the journey, and it's, and it's bringing in all of the different obstacles and victories and challenges, and so to exalt the experience, I think is helpful.
Well, and to me, like nonfiction's fine, but I mean, not to bring us back to fiction, but I'm going to. The reason I love Graham Greene so much is because he has spoken more powerfully to me about God using imperfect instruments than any nonfiction ever has. Right?
Yeah, his books are like parables.
Yeah, they are. And I'm able to see like, like between in the end of the affair, right? It's an affair with the Nazi bombing that drives her to faith, right? Like that's wild, right? And that I get to see in his books. Now, also autobiographies, Christian autobiographies are interesting because they're doing a similar thing, because nobody's life is a direct birth to heaven, trajectory.
Oh yeah. Well, that leads me to a question I would love to hear your answers on is, do you have a favorite sort of subgenre of Christian nonfiction? And I'll answer that so you can kind of see what I mean. My favorite is the biographies of martyrs and missionaries. There is nothing else that's like a hit of Gatorade in the marathon of life for me, because but it really does charge my battery of faith, because I see the sacrifices and the the beautiful expressions of devotion when there's really no benefit sometimes, or the way that they can describe abiding with God in a way that I myself would love to experience. It seems like they're almost reaching into another realm as they are sacrificing so greatly. And it's inspiring, but it also helps me realize maybe today my greatest challenge is impatience with someone. It is not going to be someone asking me if I am a follower of Jesus or not, at a great cost to my life or my family. And so it helps me put my life and my challenges into perspective, but it also calls me to pursue sacrifice in a way that I see them choosing. And it's just such a gift and a blessing to generations. And it's like, oh, wow. Yeah. Why wouldn't I want to constantly hear about their stories? So it could be, I don't know, maybe one of your favorites would be like more devotional readings or more like academic readings, or maybe a book of prayers and liturgies. I don't know.
I read the Book of Common Prayer a lot, just to pick something up, because I do love beautiful prayers.
Yes.
But I don't really have a particular subgenre that I would, I mean, I just read kind of a big variety.
Yeah, that's true.
I do like autobiographies of people. I'm interested to see if I like this With God in Russia book. That's about a priest, right? That's tortured. Is he a POW?
No, he wasn't. He wasn't in combat. He was actually a Jesuit in Russia. I think before. He came out, I want to say, in the 60s or 70s. Like, he was able to get back to the U.S. He was there for like 30 years or something. But I think he was put in prison camps.
Oh, okay.
Because they were trying to get rid of the Western influence.
I'm not a big devotional, to me, I can't find what I would consider a really good. I do want it to be more academic. I don't want a devotional that's just, trite. So I don't tend to read them. I did bring a book by Timothy Keller, Timothy Keller. I've read some Max Lucado. I really like Keller better.
I didn't feel like he was right. I brought his The Meaning of Marriage.
I love that book
because that's so good. That's the book that we.
Mine is Hope in Times of Fear.
Yeah, Sarah and I went through this when we were dating.
Very good.
Yeah.
For skeptics, he has a book called The Reason for God.
Yes, I've read that too.
Phenomenal.
It is
if you're walking
good.
through, a season of life with somebody who is maybe curious about Christianity but wants something accessible, it's remarkable.
Yes.
The Reason for God.
Yeah.
Is there a book you would recommend to someone to do, maybe go through with their family or with a child?
Well, I was actually just thinking about when you're talking about subgenres, but any like in Catholic Church we call them Lives of the Saints, but I don't know if you like just books, whether they're missionaries or martyrs or whatever, but just because there was a series that we had when I was a kid that were all about this thick, but you have stories of Maria Goretti, was an Italian young woman who died fighting off a man that was trying to violate her. And she's held up as a saint, right? And there's, and I mean, there's just, I remember I have so many stories in my head of Christians that have borne tremendous witness, whether it was to the death or not, just because those were the stories I was reading as a child, right? So like, you would never hand your child, a small child, like a devotional in the sense of like, you can read this and get something out of it. What they're going to get out more is story. And these are not fictional stories. These are real stories of Christians that have borne that witness.
I'm thinking of this conversation has made me think of The Hiding Place, which I think is, many Christians have read that, but I think in the same way, just the hopefulness of that, just, describe it as so hopeful is, I think unexpected. I don't know what age you would give The Hiding Place.
Not too young.
I don't think too young. Maybe
but,
just adults, but
for me, with my young children, we just used our curriculum.
right.
So, because they were studying the Bible every week, and we knew what, and that really takes care of a devotion for young children. Because what are you doing? You're reading a Bible story, and then you're talking about it, and they're getting to know the characters and the moral points of them. And I think that, just a good children's Bible is for me the best.
I give away, when people have babies, I give them the Jesus Storybook Bible. And they've also turned, it's a massive volume of Bible stories, and they all point back to the sacrifice of Christ. And it's beautiful, and I cry every time I try to read one. But they've also pulled out a few of them and turned them into baby board books. And so I try to, it's so good. It makes me cry. But
there was something I was going to say about kids. Oh, graphic novels.
Like what?
Just whether it's, you can
like
find
David
stories,
and Goliath.
David and Goliath, or stories of martyrs that are portrayed in that, because it's one thing to read a book like this that's got no images.
Right.
It's another thing for a child to be seeing images of this. I remember one story. I think that my priest when I was a kid, he gave me like a thick book. It was all comic. It was all graphic novel, but it was all of Christian saints or whatever. But there was a story of early Christian martyrs with Roman centurions, and I'll never forget it, right? Because they were killing the Christians by sending them out naked on a frozen lake. And one of the centurions sees like how happy they are about this, right? Like they're going to see the Lord.
You've not heard that story?
And
it's really, it's good.
And what I recall is one of the Christians apostatizes, he leaves. And so they're ready to put him in a warm tub. Well, then the shock kills him, but the centurion sees it and he says, I want to go out. Like, I want to be a part of them. And
what were they chanting? Weren't they chanting? Because every time someone would die, it was
this is like
so many of these stories. Yes. Yes, but
it's not as graphic.
Not as but these were the stories that I was like nurtured on in the sense of like, this is what it means to be a Christian, right? Like, you're never going to give this up. And so graphic novels for kids, that meant a lot to me.
Well, and
it's the only graphic novel I had was Christian ones, by the way.
I can't speak to graphic novels, actually. I should expand my repertoire. I'm open. But it makes me think of, just like you said, the curriculum. And when you can undergird these beautiful classics with the meaning that they impart. I mean, when we were going through all of the study guides again, we were finding all of these correlations, and we can say, look at Uncle Alp, and look at, all the characters and the incidents in the great literature, and correlate it to, the Bible stories that we're reading or the scripture that we're reading. And so I think that it's available. It's broadly available, and it doesn't necessarily even have to be an explicitly produced story about those things.
About faith and Christianity, but we see it everywhere because we're teaching from a Christian perspective.
Right. And you don't want to you don't want to impose those things where they don't exist, but you want to illuminate them when they do exist. And so I think that
even just the ideas you said, Uncle Alp, and I was thinking, when we're reading Heidi and we talk about how unhappy she is when she comes down the mountain, and how happy it's an abstract thought that we just through literature think that the higher we are, the closer we are to God. But it's a thought that we can introduce to a young student. It is abstract, but then hopefully, they'll think about it and they can see it concretely within the story of Heidi. Of course, it also says the city's evil.
Amen.
Farmer Paul.
Yeah.
Farmer Paul.
I was actually at Jess's for a Super Bowl party last night, and I walked in, and I think I said immediately to Jess's husband, like, this is I'm not in my element here. and it's just the tight streets,
a lot of humanity,
having to park far away because
so you all are tired today.
Oh no, I
This is
ditched
an
before
aside,
the
but I
halftime.
think Monday after the Super Bowl could be a national holiday. I just want to eat chips and dip all day. Oh, yes. Well, is there a favorite Christian nonfiction book that you think would be excellent for a book club?
I think Timothy Keller would be great for
And
a
that's
book
interesting because some of
And
his works you could invite
Mere
Christians, non-Christians.
Christianity,
Mhm.
I've tried it before, and some groups just cannot. I mean, sometimes it's too hard. That's another thing is if, sometimes people aren't ready for something so academic. And so I think that, like an autobiography might be better. Somebody like Timothy Keller is definitely accessible, modern.
So are you saying that Mere Christianity has a higher bar of entry? Because I
think
it's so widely, it's so popular.
It's just
though.
the first part of it, though, about natural law is, it stops. I've tried it 3 different times in book groups and succeeded once.
Okay.
I've done it in book groups too. I've done Mere Christianity in book groups and also Narnia in book groups.
Narnia works.
So yeah, really, truly though. But there's such a correlation that you can, introduce this scene in Narnia and then go back to Mere Christianity and explain it. I mean, the trilemma or, something like that where you can see it sort of visually in the fictional account and then explain it in the more academic account. And so maybe those two in tandem. I've
like 2 tracks.
Yes,
That's
yeah.
Is there audio version of C.S. Lewis's radio broadcast that he did that's
There
based off
is.
of? Because I would think that if you were doing a book
But
club
Dave
of
said
it,
it's really scratchy.
is it?
Yes.
Well, Dave's also an audiophile, so but or even if it wasn't, but I'm just thinking that because it was originally meant for radio broadcast, I could see somebody hearing the natural law part and going, like I'm not really getting it. But then pairing up in a book club, coming together and somebody saying, this is why this is important, that could help the person get through it as opposed to just being stopped because you're sitting there reading it. That is more difficult.
That is true, but I think it's not highly accessible. The actual radio, you'd think they would, but I guess they didn't have the technology to make it good.
polish it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You want to talk about a
done-
severe mercy?
Yeah, I've done a severe mercy. Well, I've read this a million billion times. You could tell. Oh my goodness,
Yeah.
it's such
Aren't
a
those
mess.
the best ones?
Yes,
I love it when
I just have
Yeah.
notes from forever ago. I have done this in a book club, and it was remarkable to hear people's totally different takes on things that I know we've done this as a Memoria College class. Haven't we?
We had
Or
a
something
lecture.
like it?
Yes,
Okay,
we had a lecture. Yes, Tracy Lee Simmons did a lecture for Memoria College. It was fantastic on that.
You gave
It's
that
just
to me
me.
a couple years ago,
Oh, it's
and
so
I
good.
and I haven't read it yet, but I think Sarah and I are going to read it together.
Oh, you
It
should
is
read it
good.
together.
I actually
you
did
should
this.
read it together.
I did Severe Mercy with a group of faculty members, and we did a book club on it. So yeah, it was very good.
I also would do. I brought Abandonment to Divine Providence by Jean-Pierre de Caussade. He was a Jesuit in the 1600s, and this is a group. It's a compilation of letters that he wrote, I believe, to nuns, like French nuns. I think it should say, women who were serving the Lord in central France, and it's the letters that he wrote them when they would write about questions in ministry. And it's really, I read this book with someone, and we shared our thoughts on every chapter, and it was so moving to see, the timelessness of a really wise, loving spiritual director. And it's interesting to see what that brings out in a friend, and what they see.
That brings me to another point. Well, this is one of my favorite Lewis's, which is Letters to Malcolm, chiefly on prayer, and it's also letters, and it's correspondence between Lewis and his brother, and it's really, really good. But again, I think it supports my short
Yes,
a letter you can read, right?
Right.
But it's very good, and I like that correspondence, and it brings up. I just think it's very genuine. I mean, I think letters. I think that's a great point. Something like that is just very authentic and genuine, and it brings up not an expertise, but like a relatable question or a relatable doubt or a relatable experience that you can sort of empathize with. And I think that those things are very encouraging in terms of being accessible and sort of growing in faith.
I would also like to point out that some books this is kind of a different tangent here, but some books will speak to you deeply in a moment
True.
and never again.
Right.
That's true.
That's true.
Right. This is
true.
one of those for me, which was the 4-8 principle, Secret to a Joy-Filled Life.
Ooh. Is it Philippians 4:8?
Philippians 4:8. And I was just, it was an awful time in my life. And this was given to me. And even when I was reading it, I don't like when authors will choose their translation of the Bible based on what they want it to say.
Oh, goodness.
And he does that.
Oh, no.
But the general principle of focus your thoughts on those things that are good was what I needed to hear in the moment. Right. And, but it's just not one that I would go around handing out.
But it helped you.
But it really helped me in that moment.
And that
you know?
that makes it special.
Yeah.
I would say like a moment in I don't come back to this book over and over, but I did for a season, A Praying Life by Paul Miller. It's just a book on prayer that is phenomenal. Tim Keller has a book on prayer that's also very good.
So does.
But do you ever feel like there are books that you read it enough, you memorized parts of it, and then you really don't come back to it because you kind of got what you needed? I feel
or
like
just
that was that
no
book for me.
time to go back to it.
That's true. Is there a book that you haven't read yet that's Christian nonfiction, but it's kind of always been on your list? Like, for example, I've never read The Interior Castle, but I've heard people talk about that book a lot.
Trees of Avila?
Yeah.
Oh.
But I've never read it. And it's not very big, is it?
I don't know how
I've never
big it is.
heard of it.
Actually, it's on my bookshelf. That's actually
Oh,
something
really?
yes, and I haven't read it either. So I'm gonna
people talk about it, and I think, what's it?
I need
What
to.
is it?
I need to as well.
What is it?
Well, I don't know. I haven't read it. But
Okay. What's the
people
name of it?
The Interior Castle.
I'm going to join you all.
So it's fascinating. It's interesting to me because so many Christians with different maybe doctrinal convictions or different stages of their walk with the Lord have read that book and been very impacted by it. And it's just one that is almost continually on my list, but I don't pick it up. I don't know why.
Dark Night of the Soul.
Oh,
Is that also
yes.
by Teresa, or is that by John of the Cross?
I think it's by a man.
Okay, that
We'll
would
have
be
to
by
fact
John of the
check
Cross,
us,
because
but-
I think the two were kind of published around the same time, and Dark Night of the Soul is always the one that has intrigued me that I've never read. And so that would be I need to go look that up because that's interesting. Because when you ask ones that you've always kind of thought about reading but never have, for me it's Dark Night of the Soul.
I feel like there's always like something on my list that I think I should read that. And
It's good. That might be. I just finished, so I've got another one to go. So thank you for the suggestion.
Pull it off your shelf.
I know.
That's right.
Maybe that's next.
Is there any book that you just think, I can't leave this conversation without sharing about this book? Because I don't want to leave
Augustine's
a stone
Confessions.
Okay.
I haven't read that.
Me neither.
Oh yeah, I mean it's good. I mean
I need to read it.
I don't know that I actually got through the whole thing because it was actually in a Latin class that I was going through it. But even sort of being in an academic sort of scenario is impactful. Like it's good. It's worth reading.
I think it would be easier than City of God.
Probably yes. But I mean, and again, autobiographical, right? Like that's.
Right.
But I think also like everything we're talking about, it's all been published within the past. I mean, other than Interior Castle, right? Within the past 100 years.
No
Yes.
way.
Okay,
Hey,
sorry. You had
1675.
okay, we have one.
Right.
But I do think we just need to keep in mind that it is worth going back to the church fathers, right? It's
Right.
worth going back, 2,000 years to say what were they saying and learn from that, right?
I think that's a great point. And I think it's not, I mean, I like to, I'm in an Aquinas season right now. So I'm doing a lot of Aquinas, and then O'Connor is sort of related. And so I just read this great book, the Understanding the Hillbilly Thomist, which is as helpful in understanding Aquinas as it is in understanding what Flannery O'Connor is doing in her fiction. And so, but I think you're right, Paul. I think going to the original, and then also just taking advantage of all these brilliant commentaries and just the brilliant insights on these authors that we may find less accessible. There's just we are so lucky to have such.
And
I love those. Those Barclay, they're like green and white commentaries. He's got one on every book of the Bible. Is that the name of them?
I'm not sure.
And they are y'all don't know, nobody knows.
can't help
I
it.
think they're so good. And they have the scripture in there, and then he talks about it. It's just a regular commentary series, but there's a whole book on each book of the Bible.
That's impressive. I mean, very few people have done that.
Kreft has done that.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
there's-
Yeah.
Okay.
There are some people that have done it, but it is not. It's a feat to write a commentary on every book of the Bible.
Yeah.
That's right.
I think it's every book that you can understand the Bible.
Okay,
It's
really.
and I
It's
think
a bunch. A bunch of books.
I may have it over there.
I've got this one. What is this? MCML.
Which
the
Roman numeral do you mean?
Copyright would be 1950.
So it's not out of copyright. Somebody gave me this when I was teaching. It's really hard to find because it's out of copyright. It's called Fire Upon the Earth.
Out of
hold
print.
it
I
up
thought
so we
maybe,
can see?
out of print. Well, I don't think anybody can find it.
Oh, okay.
It's a little history of Christianity in a very easy to read format. She actually wanted it put into our curriculum. The church conquers an empire. The church becomes an empire. The church shakes the world shakes the church. And I
Wow.
thought it was really good, but it is in the last century. I thought maybe it was older. So yes, you're right. Everything I've got is 20th century.
Yeah, but one thought I had also about the older ones, like probably prior to the Enlightenment, right? Like there is no distinction, like we talked about, between theology and faith, right? Like you're going to be doing theology because you believe, right? And
Yes.
and so a lot of those, the older authors that we know of because of their theology or because of whatever's been handed down, some of them, like Aquinas, has poetry that nobody, like people don't tend to sit there and read as poetry, right? But there's devotional things. They all had devotional things too,
Right.
alongside of what they're doing, and I think that's something
Well, Thomas Merton too had a lot of other things besides just writing, like novels or books. He also did some things like that.
Yeah. But you think about it, anybody who is writing significantly, there's also the personal side of them that are writing the devotionals, that are writing the, that make it a lot less notice, but it's out there.
And I even find like in some books that I would say are certainly categorically commentaries. There's a series called the Tyndale Bible Commentaries that I love, and you can tell that the author, it's not just a straight, here's the information, here are the facts. It is, there's almost a sense that they are writing, not necessarily purely devotionally, but it is, there's a lot of readability to it and not just academic. And I love things like that because it is, you come to a passage that you want to know more about, but then there's someone who's written the commentary in such a way that you see, oh, right, this does endear me to the passage in a way that it's not just the facts about maybe the New Testament word that was used. It's more broadly described than that. So I don't know, that's helpful to me sometimes.
I like that too. I like something that will bring me back to actually reading the scripture and then really contemplating it.
Right, that's what I mean.
With some help.
Exactly, that's what I mean. Well, thank you all for joining. And Lee, especially, thank you for coming on this episode.
Thank you.
Really
Such a treat. I love talking about books. So thank you. This is great.
Yeah. I'm sure there were many that we're going to go back to our desk and think I left it out.
Oh, that's right.
But yeah, thanks, Paul and Tanya, too. Always a pleasure. And thank you for joining us. We'll be back next time. Thanks for joining us today on Classical Etc. by Memoria Press. If you like what you heard, please like, subscribe, or share this episode or comment. We love to hear your questions and your comments. If you want to learn more about Memoria Press, please go to memoriapress.com. This has been Classical Etc. We're so glad you joined us, and we'll see you next time.